YouTube sometimes will just annoy the living crap out of you. So I realized that the past couple of videos have been sideways. The past two streams or the past couple of streams have been sideways. I apologize for that. YouTube is now basically telling me to rotate my screen sideways, apparently because the rotation is not how it's supposed to be. I'm just so annoyed with YouTube at this particular point in time. I'm hoping that, what do you call it? I'm hoping this doesn't affect anything. Yeah, yeah. I actually turned the screen around, but I actually didn't even realize that um, they had done this. So even now, even though the screen is this way, there's this notification on the screen that's telling me I should turn my phone sideways, which I don't understand why that is. But in any case, let's proceed. So Timmy Cuamba versus Roberto Romero. So this one is a little bit tricky for me, to be honest, mainly because my heart says Roberto Romero, but my research and a bit of tape, I don't know, man. I don't think Timmy Kwamba is that great, but I also don't think, what do you call him? What's his name? I forgot. I forgot the guy's name. Um, I also Timmy Kwamba is particularly that great. Anyway, let's look at the board. Okay, Timmy Kwamba lost a split decision to Balaji Oki. I mean, at one point, Balaji Oki, to me, I thought he was like a really talented prospect. Maybe he still is, actually. I can't remember. I think he lost in his last fight, if I'm not mistaken. Let me actually check how Billy, but again, Balaji Oki, yeah, yeah. He lost to Chris. So I don't know how good Balaji Oki is at this particular point in time, but Timmy Kwamba lost to him. Um, and then he lost to Lucas Almeida, which is via decision, which is not too terrible, but still, it's not necessarily impressive, to be honest. So it makes me worry about him performing exceptionally well. Whereas on the other hand, I mean, we're dealing with Roberto Romero, and I know a lot of people are giving him a lot of flowers for performing well against. Ghana, who was he fighting? Let me actually check the last guy he was fighting. I think that particular person is also fighting either on this card or on the next card. Let me actually check his previous opponent, because I'm also not particularly impressed with Roberto Romero. I mean, I think he tried. He was a little bit more scrappy. He was a little bit more aggressive, but I don't know, man. It was a short notice fight, so you can make the argument for him that if it wasn't on short notice, he would have done significantly better. Oh yeah, I remember he was fighting David Onama, and he had David Onama in a lot of trouble. So, in all honesty, I honestly don't know how this fight is going to play out. I remember now David Onama versus Roberto Romero, and I was a little bit worried for David Onama early in the rounds, because Roberto Romero was performing decently well. So maybe if you judge it based off of that, based off of the fact that Roberto Romero against David Onama potentially, especially because I picked David Onama to actually win against Giga Chikadze. The most logical thing would be, okay, let me pick Roberto Romero, but I still don't feel like I don't want to give too much weight to debuting fighters, because normally, and I always say this, a lot of these debuting fighters normally come in and look like killers I'm not insinuating anything, but sometimes they are on something. Not all the time, but sometimes they are on something. And then when they have to now show a simple example, look at Felipe Lima. Felipe Lima came in, had one of the best performances against Manel Cab. And then when he was supposed to actually perform like that in his career going forward, he basically started to slack off. The performance wasn't the same. And I'm not necessarily saying that that's what's going to happen. We've seen people like Carlos Leo, we've seen people like Diego Lopez, who was able to actually continue to perform the way they did on their debut. But that's two people that I can mention at this particular point in time. A lot of the people who come in heavy and very, very skilled. Oh, Mate Bagorobai also is another one who came in and performed decently well. But in all honesty, a lot of these debutants coming to the UFC look exceptional on their debut, especially the short notice one. The short notice ones. The short notice ones for me, I'm not gonna lie, I suspect them a little bit of some few things. I'm still yet to see how Roberto Romero is going to perform, like while in the UFC, while in the UFC's testing pool and everything like that. In all honesty, so for me, I'm still not yet sold. His performance against David Onama was impressive. I'm not gonna lie. However, I'm still not going to actually have too much faith in his ability to actually get this one done purely because of a short notice performance. I could be wrong. Um, I guess we'll just find out if I'm wrong or not. And that's the nice thing about breaking down fights is that you can actually know my opinion as far as why I'm picking this particular person. It's not just because I don't like the other guy. It's just purely because I haven't seen enough from that particular person in order to be confident. It's the same with Ikram Aliskerov. I'm not saying Ikram Aliskerov is not good. I just don't think I'm going to pick someone based off of his performance against Phil Hauser and Wally Alvarez. It's not necessarily me saying I don't think Ikram Aliskerov is good. It just means um, Rifler. If he comes out guns blazing, he could finish Cuamba. Yeah, that's true, man. Yeah, Pala. I've been. Hi, mate. How are you, man? Welcome to the stream. Maybe by sub. Yeah, I could see that actually happening. But that's why I'm split in between because I think Timmy Cuamba has been facing pretty decent competition. I don't know if I consider Bolaji Oki decent competition, but losing to Lucas Almeida is not too much. It's not too bad in my opinion. Lucas Wally Alvarez, yeah, Wally Alvarez, yeah, something like that. Yeah, my bad. So losing to Lucas Almeida for Timmy Kwamba is not too bad. Even though Balaji Oki ended up losing, I don't know, man. I don't know how to rate those particular performances, but the fact that the odds are so close between in this particular fight, it shows how closely matched both of them are. And as far as finishing abilities, I think Roberto Romero has a slight advantage. I think his finishing ability, or rather his finishing rate, is like 60 something percent, whereas Timmy Kwamba has like a 50% finishing rate, which worries me. But I mean, I picked Ian Gary, so that shouldn't be a problem. As far as volume, Roberto Romero throws, man, a lot. As that's what was overwhelming. What do you call him, David Onama? In all honesty, and obviously in this situation, we also don't take into consideration. I mentioned one thing. One thing that I mentioned was a lot of debutants come in on something. I'm not saying all of them, but they don't have the same performance after they are in the UFC like they did when they came into the UFC, except a few people that I've mentioned. Another thing that I'm going to mention is we also forget we normally give credit to the person coming in on short notice and we hardly ever give credit to the person who is taking the short notice fight, even with a full camp. For example, Ikram wasn't getting a lot of credit for coming in on short notice, because a lot of people hate, Muslim fighters. I don't know why, but Marab versus Sugar, who wins? That's another story. I'll break it down when the time comes. But I think maybe Marab. I don't know, man. I don't know. I need to do a little bit more research. So back to this fight. So I think a lot of people give credit to people who come in on short notice only. For example, Hamza Chimaev versus Kamaru Usman. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, Kamaru Usman came off the couch." Who says that Kamaru Usman is in training? Like, Kamaru Usman is a disciplined athlete. That's why he was pound for pound number one at one point in his career in the world. So Kamaru Usman is in shape a lot of the time. But everyone was like, "Oh my God, Kamaru Usman came in on short notice. He deserves a lot of credit." Hamza Chimaev had a full camp, so it's fine. He almost even lost. I don't know why people do that, because stylistically speaking, you are taking on a much more difficult fight. So, for example, I'll go back to the fight between Hamza and Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman is an exceptional wrestler, whereas Paulo Costa is a terrible wrestler, in my opinion. He might have some wrestling abilities, but he's not that talented of a wrestler, and that's why he doesn't use it as much. People like to say, "Oh my God, Justin Gaethje is this collegiate wrestler," or whatever they like to say, but he's been beaten by virtually every wrestler that he's ever fought, right? So for me personally, I feel like a lot of people give credit to the person coming in on short notice and not the person who's taking the fight on short notice. So I think the fact that David Onama was also taking the fight on short notice, something that is not getting credit for, I think deserves a lot of credit on David Onama's side, and that's potentially why Roberto Romero was performing the way he was, because he was also having an element of surprise. Paulo Costa is just big and strong. Yeah, man, he doesn't have like anything impressive, to be honest, and we are seeing it more and more as time progresses. So for me, I don't know how to take the performance against David Onama. It was impressive, I'm not gonna lie, but I don't know how to take it because, number one, I don't know if he was on something during that performance. Number two, I don't know if the element of surprise for David Onama, or maybe David Onama underestimated him. He was like, "Nah, is this guy coming in on short notice? I've been in the UFC for a very long time. I can just knock this guy out." Maybe that's what he thought, and it didn't go that way. In hindsight, Chimaev would have obliterated him. Yeah, like he would have destroyed him, and he didn't even get credit for taking the fight against Kamaru Usman, a harder fight than Paulo Costa. He didn't get any credit for actually taking that fight on short notice. So for me personally, that's why it's kind of challenging to give too much credit to Roberto Romero's performance against David Onama, because he came in on short notice. He could have been on something. I'm not saying he was on something. He could have been on something. So this performance for me will be the performance that makes me feel like, okay, let's see if he's actually that good, or if there were circumstances that favored him to actually perform like that. But I will maintain that I felt like Timmy Cuamba's loss, the decision lost against Lucas Almeida, for me is a lot more impressive on a full camp, right? And even in this particular situation, Timmy Cuamba, unlike David Onama, is going to have the ability to prepare for what do you call him, Roberto Romero, right? So let me actually stop blabbering too much and get out. So as far as the breakdown, Roberto Romero, we all know he throws significant. However, defensively, he is terrible. He is terrible defensively. He gets hit a lot, especially maybe it could be because of David Onama. Obviously, David Onama is a pretty decent fighter. That's why I picked him to win against Giga Chikadze. So maybe that's the reason. Maybe Timmy Cuamba, but not Timmy Cuamba. Maybe Roberto Romero has good defense. Just that maybe David Onama was able to find holes in that defense. But so far, based on what I've seen, he has a horrible striking defense. So that means Timmy Cuamba is most likely going to be able to land. And even though Roberto Romero throws a lot of volume, it's not like it's overwhelming volume, right? I mean, he has the ability to finish fights, but it's not as high, that high. I mean, he's like he has a. Did you watch Romero's regional fights? Um, Maybe one, and I didn't even watch it as much. The main fight that I was focusing on was the fight between what do you call him? Between David Onama and Roberto Romero, because for me that's the most recent fight, and that's the fight I focused on. But maybe I'll look at some of his regional fights, but I mainly focused on the fight with David Onama. Um, and to be honest, for me, I don't know. I think he gets hit a lot. I guess we'll find out if I'm wrong or right. And then as far as the grappling goes, what shots does he usually get caught with? I think Kwamba could stick and move and has good technique and decent footwork. If you are asking me to describe overheads and straight shots and everything like that, to be honest, there's so many fights that I had to watch. For me, I was just focusing on who gets hit more than the other guy. To be honest, that was the main focus for me. Who gets hit significantly more than the other guy? So for me, in both fights, Timmy Kwamba, I focused only on his two fights in the UFC: the fight between him and Balaji Oki, and the fight between him and who's the other guy? I forgot. I think it was Lucas Almeida or something like that. For Timmy Kwamba, I focused on those two fights. For Roberto Romero, I focused on the David Onama fight. For me, I think Timmy Kwamba performed a little bit better. Even though he lost, I don't like it. But both of them lost, so it doesn't really matter. We have to judge them based on who didn't lose too bad. And for me personally, I think Timmy Kwamba performed decently well against a very seasoned UFC fighter in Lucas. Was it? Let me actually check. Against a very seasoned fighter in Lucas Almeida, to be honest. So for me, I rate that performance over the performance against David Onama, because that was his. Kuamba got absolutely um, slept around by Almeida. He might have gotten slept. You could say that, right? But for me personally, I look at who did a little bit better. Ultimately, it comes down to what you see and what I see. So, for example, when we are watching fights, no, he got dropped multiple times. Okay, no, it's fine. So what you see, that's what I'm saying. What you see in a fight. That's why, for example, when we are watching fights live, you sometimes say, "I think this guy won," and I'm like, "No, I don't think so." We don't look at fights the same way. So, and in this particular fight, even if you say, "Oh no, he got dropped," whatever the case is, for me, it's about comparatively. I don't look at what Lucas Almeida did to this particular guy. I mean, I'm looking at who got touched up significantly more than the other guy. In my opinion, I think Roberto Romero got touched up a little bit more than Timmy Cuamba. That's my opinion. It's cool if you disagree, but my opinion is, if there's anyone who was taking massive shots, maybe, yeah, the internet is just interneting. Anyway, so if your argument is that Timmy Kwamba does not have a chin, um Kwamba showed ability to survive, but if that's Romero dropping him, I think he immediately wraps up a choke or gets a dominant position. Yeah, that's why I say I guess we'll just have to wait and see. That's why the argument I was making is that if maybe you're saying Timmy Kwamba doesn't have a chin, then that's fine. But if we're going to talk about who gets hit more, I think it's Roberto Romero, not Timmy Kwamba. So maybe you might be right that Timmy Kwamba doesn't have a chin, but he doesn't get hit as much as Roberto Romero, in my opinion, based on what I was looking at. So maybe I'm wrong. I guess we'll find out. But nonetheless, this is a coin flip. I don't think you can do any wrong by picking either guy. To be honest, I'm not particularly confident in Timmy Kwamba, and even if I picked Roberto Romero, I wouldn't even be that confident in his ability to get this one done because he was getting touched up a lot in that particular fight. So whoever you pick, I can respect that. I'm going with Timmy Kwamba. My subscribers are going with Roberto Romero. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Um, However, I don't think Roberto Romero is good enough to drop him like that unless he comes in charging, which will then leave him very open. Yeah, I actually see this being a split decision. Yeah, I could see that. So that's why, for me personally, I'm like, whoever you choose, you might be right. This is going to be a very close fight, in my opinion. Unless if Roberto Romero came in on something and and he basically surprised David Onama, in which case I think then Timmy Kwamba should win this decisively. Because Timmy Kwamba has had two decisions in the UFC, even though he lost both of them, I think he looked decent, you know. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But I'm not very confident in my pick. My subscribers went with Roberto Romero. I think either of them could win this fight. I'm not particularly confident in my pick. Anyway, I need to post the fight with Gage Young and what do you call it? So I'll post it tomorrow, and I'll also do the breakdown tomorrow. So I'm left with Gage Young and who's he fighting? Oh, Evan Elder versus Gage Young, and I need to also break down the fight between Chelsea Chandler versus Jocelyn Edwards. So I'm going to do those two tomorrow, and then I'll post the Evan Elder versus Gage Young fight on the short section. I think by tomorrow. So yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. I love and appreciate all of you. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, deuces.